Great decorating is all about the details, including a gorgeous textured set of coasters. How we love a coaster. Functional. And why not be beautiful? Quince has a gorgeous set of woven rattan coasters in 3 terrific colors with their own little holder that you're going to absolutely love. And if you haven't visited quince.com/DTT yet, get on over there. It's everyday elevated living without the markup. From crisp 100% linen bedding and soft organic cotton towels to airy curtains and premium kitchen tools designed for everyday use. And the best part? Like Quince's clothing, their home goods are half the cost of similar brands. By partnering with top artisans, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. Elevate your space with home essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT.
Opulence is back. Hi, I'm Anita Joyce here with Kelly Wilkness, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. Today we are talking skirted tables and trims. I'm so excited to see these things come back, although I was tired of them for a while. But I'm happy to see them back. I do miss my old friends. And you know, the other thing we're doing a little differently today is covering 2 topics. But there's so many smaller topics that we've been avoiding because we didn't feel like there was enough content for an entire show. So I thought, well, why not start adding them together?
Get those topics out there, because I don't think people can go on without really learning what's going on with these skirts and trims and how to use them now. Because as you always point out, they're back, but they're really not back exactly the same way they came in the first time.
Well, and interesting, the way you refer to the first time, I assume you were referring to the 1990s, but actually...
That's so funny. When I said that came out of my mouth, I was like, well, that's a really long first time.
But actually,
so, yeah. They were there, they were gone, they were back. The most recent time.
So they've actually been around for centuries. I would say in the 1990s, the thing that switched was we started putting a little cardboard table under them.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what changed. So, and I would say the other thing, right, well, let's get into the changes, but I think there's some exciting things, and I think it can really make a beautiful upgrade for your room.
Okay, well, you're super stoked about this, so kick us off.
Well, I think they would work probably in about any room, but the thing to keep in mind is the fabric. You want your fabric to go with the other fabrics in the room, and the weight also is an important issue when you're putting these skirted tables in a room. So if you're thinking you're just going to grab a sheet and throw it over that table, think again. You might have been able to get away with that in the 90s, but now I feel that that's going to look too meagerly, too skimpy. It's just not going to feel right. I think you want a fabric with some heft to it. I think you're going to look for maybe a thicker linen, a velvet, something that's really got some thickness to it.
Agreed. And you don't really want to reach for a pattern that was popular back in those days. So I'm kind of picturing some Waverly florals or Laura Ashley.
Boy, you went right for the 90s.
So you don't want to pick something like that.
Waverly and Laura Ashley.
Yeah. Did you ever know I was the assistant manager at the Laura Ashley
mentioned it.
shop
That is
in
amazing.
Southampton? Well, yes. I had a lot of Laura Ashley outfits, and we definitely had a lot of skirted tables on display. So I know from what I'm talking about. So if you've still got one of those round skirted tables in the way back of one of your closets, don't pull that out. You want to try something new. And so I would definitely go for something that's maybe a textured solid. I love that burlap with the burlap bullion trim, which I know I'm now going into the second topic already, but that Ballard Designs has always had.
Oh,
they still have it.
Well, I've seen that.
Yeah, so that's one of their, their stalwart items, I think. They never get rid of that one.
If you're not familiar with skirted tables, they're typically on...
Oh, yeah, maybe we should do that.
Well, it's typically a round table that you have this circular cloth that lays over it. But again, I think you want to reimagine it. So one option is to go with a square or rectangular topped table. You do not have to use a round table for a skirted table.
No, you don't at all. But that is sort of the look that maybe you might conjure in your mind when we're talking about it. So, think different shapes as well. So I sort of started out my notes thinking, like, why would you want to use a skirted table? So now we've kind of discussed their back and what shape they might be. And we kind of poked around about the fabrics and things like that. So why would you want to use something like this? It's not going to date your room. Trust us. I have one, and I have had one. I think I've had one in every house I've ever had. Because I find that they do a lot of good in a room. There's always a place for a skirted table. It softens the look. Particularly in a living room, you might have a lot of accent pieces that are wooden or metal or leggy, and this just gives a different type of texture, a different shape. It softens the space. When your eye hits the fabric, it's giving a different look than maybe a side table on the other end of your sofa that is a harder surface. So I think it's a great place to work a skirted table is in the living room. Another reason you'd want to use it is because you might have a lonely corner. I have a lonely corner that's not 90 degrees. It's a little wider than 90 degrees for whatever reason in my Victorian home. And just a regular old side table just was not filling the space properly.
Anytime you can add fabric to the room, you're adding softness and warmth. We talked recently about how to cozy up your living room to make it more inviting, and we talked about adding more fabric. I mean, so this is a way to cozy up a room and make it feel more inviting. It's to add that fabric on a table.
And I think it's really not a big commitment. Sure, you could spend hundreds of dollars per yard, and with these round skirts, you do need a lot of fabric. Anita can speak to that with more knowledge than myself, but I think you do need a lot of fabric to get the round and have it fall the right way and hit the ground at the right spot and all of that. But you don't have to spend a ton of money, and you can get one that's already made. You don't have to buy fabric by the yard and then have it done. So it's rather inexpensive. And what you touched on earlier is that you can use one of these particle board or even cardboard, a heavy duty cardboard, I would assume, tables underneath. So that's just giving the structure to the table. And then you're putting the fabric cloth on top of it. So it can be rather inexpensive rather than buying sometimes side tables are $600-$700, which I think is crazy. I would never spend that money on a side table. But if you're getting a new at retail, that's a lot of the market out there is they're pretty high priced. And it just really looks elegant and classic.
For sure. Another benefit to these tables is that if you are really short on space, and that also talks about the other podcast episode we just did recently about how to come up with creative storage space in a small home. You can store things under these skirted tables. You can put shelves under there, baskets, whatever you need to, and the skirt is going to cover it up. I mean, I wouldn't use it if you don't have to, because you're going to have to pick up the skirt to use it, but I think it's a great place to hide things. And another thing that's nice about these tables is that you can use a glass top on top of the table, and that's going to be easy clean. You're not going to have to worry about wood being damaged by a wet glass. So I think there's a lot of practicality to these tables. And like you said, they can be very inexpensive depending on the base that you use.
Yes, and the storage idea is a terrific one. I would probably not recommend storage as much for a round as I would for something that's more of a rectangular shape. Square, you don't see square skirted tables that much. That would probably be pretty complicated to create the fabric topper. I don't know. I don't know why I feel like the square would be harder. A rectangle would probably be harder too, because I'm feeling like in that shape, you maybe want to have your fabric covering be a little bit more tailored rather than the round. But, you know, Anita, I'd love to hear your opinion on that as a sewer. But I'm picturing a rectangle console type table, perhaps in an entryway where you've got a more tailored fabric topper, and then you can just have, as you said, baskets underneath it. You could even just put some stuff on the floor. I mean, maybe that's a great place to store some platters if this console table is in the dining room, or if it's in the entryway, maybe you have baskets and you even have, you know, flip-flops or shoes or something in there. You want to be careful, obviously, if people are interacting with the fabric a lot, then I would definitely choose something that was a darker color or a very busy pattern. So if there were dirty fingers or something like that, it really wouldn't make that much of an impact. I wouldn't do a nice off-white if I felt like people were going to be touching it a lot. But I think it's a great way to create a beautiful look, particularly in an entryway. I think this could really lend itself nicely, and to grab this extra storage.
I love the idea of a rectangular table that is skirted. So let's talk about what you could do. If you are going to cover it with fabric, what you can do is kind of find out where it's falling. Well, rather than using an ironing board, I think the easiest thing to do would be to steam it. So you're going to try to steam it into some pleats at the corners, basically, and then tuck the extra fabric in so that it's not sitting out, so that it'll look like maybe those are purposeful pleats on the corners. I think that can be done with no extra sewing.
Oh.
Another thing you could do is make basically a gathered skirt that you sew around that top piece of fabric. So you cut a piece of fabric that fits the top, and then you make a gathered skirt, the height of the table, and then you sew it on around the edges. And you could do that actually with a round table as well. So you don't have to go with just one round piece of fabric on the round table. It really does depend on what kind of look you want. Another thing you can do, now this is a little more complicated, but you can go with a pleated table where there's pleats all the way around. You can do that on the round table or even the rectangular one.
Wow, those are really some good options. Okay, I didn't think about that, especially the first one you said with the no sew. That might be something people could just try, even with some maybe yardage they have around, just to get the sense of and practice it a little bit. I like the idea of doing the gathered skirt around. That reminds me of that long drop bedspread that you love so much. Is that a similar type of design?
Yes, in fact, I was thinking about referring to it that way because it is the same look as a long drop bedspread. So very similar. That is a way to have a skirted table that has an updated look. So if you had the skirted table back in the day and you want a little different look, here are some different ways that you can go, are the ones that we just talked about.
Yeah, I think that's great. Have you also seen where they might just go around with Velcro on the gathered skirt and attach that?
Familiar. I think I have seen something like that, and you certainly could then pull it back, especially if you have things stored underneath.
Yeah. It might feel a little clunky at the top because you might see the Velcro or whatnot. But you could, I mean, you know, if you're as handy with a sewing machine as Anita is, or skilled, I should say, I'm sure you could pull this off on your own. But you could even take this to an upholsterer or a very skilled dry cleaner. Oftentimes has somebody who can do some really great sewing projects for you. You could even have a welt on the edge and have it, go around. And there are a myriad of ways you could pull this off. You could also just buy you see more round ones, a fabric skirt for this particular type of table. As I mentioned, that Ballard one, and I did just double check to make sure because I I know I'd always seen it on Ballard Designs, but yes, they have the essential skirted side table so that you're getting the base, which I think is particle board. And then you're getting the essential tablecloth, which they have in the burlap. They have it in other neutrals and with that bullion fringe. And pretty reasonable to get a statement piece like that. And the thing I like about the round ones in particular, and this one, because this is the one I can really speak to, is that there's a big surface area. So as I mentioned, it really fills a lonely corner. And even if you didn't have any furniture near it necessarily, it could just be a lovely table filling a lonely corner or in front of a window or something like that. There's plenty of room for a good-sized table lamp. Plenty of room for a lovely vignette or a plant and a planter and a candle, or even probably a tray, as well as the large, nice-sized table lamp. So you've got a lot of surface area to do some really great decorating on top of here. I don't have the glass top. I think that did make it seem a little bit 90s-ish.
Yeah, it might.
Right? It just kind of did. So I didn't purchase that. And so you can get it without the glass top, I believe. And I keep talking about the Ballard Designs. I'm sure you can
that
get
one
this
is
in a lot of places. You probably found it on Amazon. It really is. And I mean, it's exactly, the table you purchase, and then you're purchasing the cloth that they created to go on the table. So it takes out all the guesswork. So, if you like the fabrics that they offer. So I didn't do the glass top. But when I use it, it is on the side of my sofa, and that's kind of where I gravitate towards if I'm going to go sit in the living room. And I'm either going to have a glass of wine or I'm going to have a cup of tea. Maybe I'm reading my book on the occasion that I go sit there. So I just have a little pile of coasters that I have. So it's not a problem. And I actually use the brush attachment on my vacuum, and I just use the vacuum brush and to clean the top of the burlap, because it occasionally needs to get brushed off, and that's a great way to clean it. So I don't even really dry clean it. I certainly don't put the burlap cover in the washing machine. So that's a easy way to keep it nice and fresh. Another thing I wouldn't do, because
I wanted to go back.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Before we go too far away from the topic, because you mentioned the Velcro at the top and it not showing. Now, this does harken back to the 90s, but you could put a smaller piece of fabric, typically square, on top that's just hanging down maybe about 5 inches on each side to cover up that Velcro at the top, if you wanted to do that.
Mind reader, when I first started saying another thing I wouldn't do because it would look 90s is putting...
it's not that I'm right. It's just to cover that up. Well, and
yeah. No, absolutely. If you wanted to cover up where the seam or whatever was going on to keep the skirt on, there's a reason for doing that. But just for the look, I would not put the topper on. It does remind me of that.
And another thing that I do, it's not actually a table, but I do have a few pieces of furniture that I don't really like the way they look, and I have covered them with tapestries. So one is an antique Victorian age, actually it's French fabric that's a very heavy brocade that's on one table, and another one I have a cantha quilt. So I just have it thrown over, and it's a little messy looking, but I'm just kind of have it that way for now. I don't really want to cut my cantha quilt, so I'm just leaving it like that. So that is something that you can do, and I just, like I said, I kind of tuck in the extra fabric kind of out of the way. So it doesn't have to be super tailored. It really kind of depends on your room. This is kind of in a room that's not used that much, but if it were in my living room, I saw it all the time. It would probably bother me, and I would go ahead and officially finish it up so that it looks more neat and tidy.
Well, I love that look, and you're really great at throwing other fabrics on top of things and doing it in that very, it's sort of nonchalant. But I don't think you need to have it tailored or really perfect, because I think it really adds a nice vibe to it. So you do that very well. Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. I can't stop using dupe.com. This is an amazing website, service, best friend. I absolutely love it. So you find something that you really want and it's too expensive. It's a budget buster. Then you use dupe.com and you can find almost the exact thing or very similar products for much less. So I was crushing on this incredibly gorgeous coffee table. I had it in my mind. I had it in my Pinterest boards. I had it everywhere, but I just didn't have it in my house because it was too expensive. When I learned about dupe.com, that was the first product that I tested. And boy, did I find some amazing dupes. And I purchased one. So the original was almost $3,000. And Dupe showed me many choices, all the way down to under $200. Now, you may think something this extraordinary is hard to use, but it's so easy. Just type dupe.com/ before any product URL in your browser, and boom, it instantly finds you less expensive alternatives. They even have an app and a browser extension you can download. No account required, no sign up required. It's completely free. That's completely free free to use. Stop wasting your money on brand names and start saving with dupe.com today. Another thing that I would avoid, because it will harken back to the last time this was popular, is the extra flounce at the bottom.
Oh, the ruffle.
Yeah. So I wouldn't choose something like that.
But bullion trim, okay in your mind.
Bullion trim is always okay in my mind. So which will take us right into the trim. So let's talk about that. What are you thinking about how trim is coming back?
I just wanted to finish up with the skirted tables. Just, and this is kind of topic adjacent, but this is another thing. It's to do the skirt below a sink. I think that is definitely coming back as well. And that's a very English country look. So that's also another thing that you can use that I think is really beautiful.
Excellent.
Okay.
I love that look too. Okay, so trim, how are we seeing it now in 2025?
Well, I think you can use these really for curtains, cushions, pillows, lampshades, bedding, throws. I mean, you know the transformative power of trims. I mean, talking about the bullion trim, I mean, the bullion fringe is gorgeous. So how can you not love that? I mean, and trims are just beautiful. But, you know, for years now, with all this minimalism and, you know, balances went away, trims went away. And yeah, it did seem like oppressive. It was too much. But, you know, it's a pendulum thing. I think we went too far away from all of that. And then it was too stark. And now people are saying, well, you know, that trim wasn't so bad. I miss my bullion fringe. I miss my tassels.
Yeah, tassels too. I remember my mom had tassels hanging from, every knob or, I mean, she really liked her tassels. But you can use tassels now on occasion. Yeah, you're not going to want to use one that's sort of bejeweled in the Tuscan jewel tones. But stay away from those. Keep those in the closet or give those away.
Well, I have a lot of antiques. They all have keys. They all have a tassel on every key. It helps me find them better. So I have the tassels.
Yeah, it's just for finding them. We know that, Anita. It's not for the decorative effect at all.
On my house keys, I keep finding them on the ground outside because they fall out of my pocket.
That's a problem. Okay, you need a big giant
I need one of those
tassel.
big rulers or something like you get at the service station, so you don't take it home with you.
Oh, when you want to use the bathroom and they give you the giant thing. Oh, there's a cafe that we love to go to here in town. And I mean, I love everything about it, except if you have to use the ladies' room, they give you a giant spatula.
What?
So, yes, a giant spatula with the key attached. And so you're walking through and everybody knows where you're going. A giant spatula in your hand. Yeah, well, there's a lot of different trims to choose from out there. We're just going to give you some ideas of where you want to put it. You can put it on ottomans, lampshades, window shades, drapery, pillows, sofas, skirted tables, bedding, throw blankets, and as Anita mentioned, you can add some tassels around. But don't do all of those things. Choose a few spaces, places, items that you would like to add some trim to, and then have fun with it. I mean, I would start out at Samuel and Sons because they just really. They are the height of trim manufacturers. They have beautiful, gorgeous trims, and they're not inexpensive. But you might get an idea of something that you really like, and if you don't want to spend the money you'd have to get some yardage there, then maybe you can try to Google it and find something that's in a better price point. I think just adding it to a plain white lampshade is a great place to start, and it's not a big commitment, and you could just use glue.
Now, what? Because I was pretty sure you were against any kind of trim on lampshades a few years ago. Have you changed your mind?
I don't know that I was against trim on lampshades.
Really?
I can't remember having a phase where I was, but maybe. But I think, why not? Now we're seeing so many more fabric lampshades, and lampshades are not plain Janes anymore. And so why not? I think it's also a very inexpensive way to dip your toe into using trims, because you might have, like I do, a couple of lampshades that are kind of boring and just white, and maybe you're thinking to replace them, but hey, maybe just start with some trim and see how you like it.
Well, there are so many different ones, and a lot of items you can buy with the trim already on it. I've bought pom-pom curtains. Well, those were custom made with the pom-poms on the edge, but I've bought quilts that have a pom-pom trim on them. You can get fringe on pillows. You can get tassels on the corners, cording. So, anything that's going to be sewn in the seam really has to be done when the item is made. You can't really add piping later without taking the item completely apart. So this is really something that needs to be added when it's made. Now, I've used piping a lot. I think it does add a lot to pillows, especially cushions. I feel like do typically need piping, and contrasting piping is even a beautiful look as well. So that's kind of something you need to do ahead of time. So order it custom that way or buy it that way. Yeah. But the pom-pom trim, maybe bric-a-brac, you can just sew that on later. So that is definitely something you can do. In fact, I am seeing that bric-a-brac sewn on napkins lately and hand towels. It's really pretty.
You say bric-a-brac and I say ric-rac.
Well, it must be, and maybe I'm calling it the wrong thing. That's what I call it. But yeah, it's the zigzag trim. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very charming. I mean, you could see that going along with something scalloped, not necessarily on something scalloped, but it kind of has that same vibe. It's kind of whimsical, sweet. Yeah, it's definitely a really nice thing to add. You could add that easily to lampshades. I love the eyelash trim.
Oh,
I think we had some pillows like that when we had bespoke. That is really beautiful. So that's a really thick, short, sort of a lush trim. It's kind of if you had bullion at one end and then you had eyelash at the other, and it would kind of be on that spectrum of the fringy fringes. Really pretty. So many ways to add this. I would probably stay away from purchasing a sofa or an expensive side chair with some dramatic fringe, because you might get tired of it. And as Anita always points out to us, the pendulum may swing. And if you're doing it because it's fun and you want to try it for a while, but you're not completely committed to it, then in a few years you might get a little weary of that piece of furniture.
If you have animals too, I think that's going to pique their interest. I think that's what they're going to go for.
That's a good point. I should really stay away from that. Yes. So now because we still have 4 dogs, because we still have our little foster from the fires. So I don't know how long we're going to have her, but we're loving her, but she might love bullion trim. So I'll stay away from that for sure.
Well, so another thing to think about when you're choosing the trim is to make sure it is fit for purpose. Think about how you're going to use it and what the piece of furniture is that it's going on. If you have, for example, something toward the minimalist end, like something mid-century modern, I would say piping is probably the most appropriate trim to use. You don't want anything too foofy. If you want something soft, try a fringe. Elegance, go with tassels. Playfulness, I would go with pom-pom.
Can't beat pom-poms for playfulness. I love that. Okay, you want to go into our defines?
I do, but first, I have another review to share with you. ERO18. This review says, Anita and Kelly, I am so glad that I started listening to your podcast. I am really enjoying your opinions, advice, and tips on home design. It's my favorite podcast. Wow. I have learned so much from it. Happy birthday to you both, Eileen.
Thank you. Oh, and I love that she included her name.
Thank you,
Eileen.
This was so kind of you, Eileen. We really do appreciate it so much.
So if you want to be like Eileen, leave us a really nice review and we'll read it on there. So what are we defining?
We are defining a Dutch door. And I know you know what this is.
Oh, I love a Dutch door.
I know. I have yet to have one, but I do love Dutch doors. So this is a type of door that is split horizontally so that you can open the entire door or only the top or the bottom. They were common in the Netherlands in the 17th century, and they quickly spread to other parts of the world because they're so functional. They're also referred to as a stable door, and they were very popular in New York and New Jersey, where the Dutch originally settled there. Dutch doors allowed the air to circulate without allowing farm animals into the house, so they were very functional. Well, and speaking...
And in my case, the one I have I have one in the backyard that goes to the driveway. And in my case, it keeps dog animals in the yard, not out in the driveway. And I love it. It's great.
Right. So they're very functional. Well, and speaking of animals, I mean, the most famous Dutch door I can think of was Mr. Ed's Dutch door. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know who Mr. Ed is, go Google it. He's a talking horse.
Oh, well, gosh, you could spend how long binging Mr. Ed episodes? You know you're really in trouble if that's what you're doing. But yeah, go check him out.
Okay, what's your crush?
Before we share today's crushes, we want to tell you about something we're always crushing on. It's the Affordable Interior Design podcast hosted by our friend Betsy Helmuth. We're going to let Betsy tell you a little bit more about her show.
Welcome to the Affordable Interior Design by Uploft podcast, the ultimate destination for transforming your space on a budget. Revamp your home without emptying your wallet because our host, designer and entrepreneur Betsy Helmuth, that's me, has all the tips, tricks, and insider secrets you need. Join us every week as we explore the world of interior design through a frugal lens. From budget-friendly decor hacks to thrifty DIY projects, we're here to help you create a home you love without breaking the bank. Listen in as I guide you through the ins and outs of affordable interior design. My expertise has been showcased on NBC's Today Show, HGTV, DIY Network, Lifetime Network, and more. And I've personally worked with over 1,000 clients over the past 2 decades at my New York City-based firm. But that is not all. I want to hear from you. Do you have a design dilemma? Need advice on sprucing up a small space or refreshing your outdated furniture? Send me your questions and I will answer them live on air. Whether you're a renter, a homeowner, design business owner, wannabe designer, or just an enthusiast, Affordable Interior Design by Uploft is your go-to podcast for practical advice and creative ideas. Grab your headphones, fire up your favorite podcast player, follow Affordable Interior Design by Uploft, and join us on this exciting journey to transform any space affordably.
I was having people over for dinner, and these are friends of mine who like a cocktail. I'm not a cocktail girl. I like wine. Have I ever mentioned that to you? So, but I realized I didn't have a nice set of cocktail glasses. So I ordered a set of highball / cocktail glasses.
They didn't like your ball glass jars from the blogging days?
Oh, yeah, that would have been... Well, you know what? My friends might have liked them because you can get a lot of drink in those. So, yeah, I usually use those just for the iced tea. But I purchased these. They're lovely. They were very reasonable. And you got 6 of them. And there were 2 each of 3 different styles, and they're really, really pretty. And they're lead free, which I know we don't like. I mean, used to be lead crystal, right? Wasn't that, you would say lead crystal, that was a good thing. Now it's like nobody wants lead.
Well,
I don't think, right? They're still crystal.
Well, I think the thing is you can still drink out of them. What I've read is don't store drinks in them because then they are going to absorb the lead. But if you're just drinking out of them for a short duration, I've heard it's okay.
Well, let me just tell you, no worries there. My girls don't keep their drinks in the glass very long at all. So there's no storage going on. So anyway, they're beautiful and they looked really nice and they were a nice size. They feel good in your hand. So I will add that link to the show notes.
Well, I love beautiful glasses, and I recently bought some tortoise shell glasses, and they're so beautiful. So it's really nice to have some really pretty glasses to use on your table or when guests come over.
I love tortoiseshell. So are they water glasses? How big are they?
They're stemless wine glasses. Yeah, but you can use them for anything. They're not just for wine.
I will again be checking the show notes to see what these really look like and maybe getting some for myself. It's dangerous with you and all these good crushes.
Well, wait till you hear the one today. I'm ready for your eye roll.
Eye roll. Okay.
Because it's super practical. I was watching a YouTube video recently, and the host was going on and on about these Scrub Daddy sponges. And I thought, what is this thing? Why is he talking about this? Because it seemed like, are we really going on and on about a sponge? So I thought, okay, my interest is piqued. I thought, okay, I'm going to buy some. I'm just going to try them. So I got them, and I think they're pretty good. So it's not a regular sponge. It's apparently was on one of those Shark Tank shows or something. And it's a very stiff, it's not made from sponge material. It's a very stiff kind of material. And so it's really good for a tough scrubbing job. Maybe like if you're cleaning a tub or maybe even, washing dishes if there's some, food stuck on. The thing is, if the water hits it is cold, it stays hard and stiff and it's easy to scrub with. And if it gets hot water on it, it softens up and it's closer to a regular sponge. So I think they're pretty good. I'm going to share a link, 3 for less than $15. You might want to try them.
Wow. 2 topics in one.
Double fun.
We're such givers, Anita. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time. Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.